Are y'all wondering while I'm smiling? No one's wondering. Well, I'm sick. I'm cold. I'm freezing. My hair is not doing what it's supposed to do. But it's going to be doing something tonight. I guarantee you. I guarantee each and every one of you the pleasures that are going to come from this. I've even got the itches because I'm scared. I haven't heard this yet, but I heard there's going to be releasing of some information. So take notes, call your friends, hit them up. This will be not only on all the network, links that we have out there. All you gotta do is type GERN or Global Enlightenment Radio Network. You'll find us everywhere. This will be streamed live. Like right now, you can hear us on the stream. Yeah, the reason why the website's down, I'm deciding what I want to fucking do with it. You punk ass motherfuckers out there are just driving me crazy about that. Go find another stream that I got going out until I decide what I'm gonna do. Last but not least, it's freezing. I'm cold. I'm not feeling the energy yet, but I know you people out there are going to be amazed. You're going to be severely amazed at this. I'm going to introduce you right now, Penny Bradley's. You read the title, right? I got nothing more to say. I'm going to release this right now. This is a beast that I never thought I would have to touch. I think she's gone wild. And I'm going to bring it over. I'm going to mash play. And I hope I'm giving y'all people enough time to call your friends up, because they need to hear this from Penny Bradley herself. The truth is going to set you free. Here we go, everybody. Oh, I don't know who she's going to talk about. I don't know. I'm scared. Maybe she got me in there. The devil himself would be kind of fun. All right. I don't want to play no tricks today. I'm going to have fun. Okay. Here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Listen to the show, everybody. Carefully listen. Share it out. Send it to your mama, your daddy, your uncle, your cousins, your friends. Make sure it's on your wall so that people will not be discouraged. Share it via any social media links you have. This door will be closed tonight, but it will be repeated tomorrow morning. I want to make sure I get the morning shift on this one too. Here we go.
Welcome to Nacht Waffen Pilot with Penny Bradley. I have something serious to talk about today. I have made a post about it in Facebook and an extended post in my Patreon. And after all this time that I've been public, I'm going to name names today. I have been advised not to. In fact, some of the people have been rather pushy about not to. I have to wonder about their motives for trying to silence me about this. But I'm going to try to keep it classy, and I'm only going to name the names of the people who have actually done me harm at a level that it could be considered criminal. I'm not talking about all the assholes and arrogant idiots out there who talk about me being delusional. I mean, they're entitled to their opinions. I'm talking about people who are doing actual harm to others or to me. So I have a basic outline I'm going to follow, so I won't be as off the cuff as I usually am. So I'm clarifying a misunderstanding that many of you have about my weekly radio show podcast. While I do primarily discuss the SSP community, the show is about documenting the disclosure movement in all its variety. I do make an attempt to verify the truthfulness of my guests, but do not consider that their appearance on my show means they are telling the whole truth. Some of them were on my show because they asked to be. Some I asked, and some my producer thought would be within the parameters of documenting the disclosure movement. So some of them had no idea who I was, and it's an opportunity to sell their books. So I have no issues with any of those people. The ones we will be talking about today are the ones who have either committed or contributed to criminal activity. So I have been fooled by some of these people, just like everyone else has. I do have psi abilities, but I generally don't use them on people. I honor their right to privacy in their own heads. I don't do soul readings on them or make telepathic contact before the interviews, for the simple reason that the DOD tried to kill me that way once, and I have learned to not do that. Also, people are entitled to their privacy in their own heads, which is something many in our community don't honor. I don't go into a person's head without their consent unless I feel they're threatening me. And this is a gray zone. If I feel they're threatening me, then I have every right to defend myself. Now, I do continue to have guests who make sense to me while I'm documenting the disclosure movement. There are a lot of people out there whose entire testimony is based on channeling or dreams or other things that I generally consider to be religious rather than 3D real. So there are people I have stopped interviewing because of their behaviors towards me. Some have simply bossed me around. I don't take that well, personally. I have worked hard to have my own authority over my own life, my own autonomy. Not even my partner tells me what to do. He will advise me that he thinks that I'm going in a bad direction and that I should rethink it, but he never, ever tells me what to do. So bossing me is one reason that I'll stop having you on the show. Others have threatened me. Others are spreading lies about me. Flat out, blatant lies. And I see no reason to advertise folks who treat me poorly. And yes, in the overall community, being interviewed on a radio show is advertising. That's how it's viewed. And the public needs to understand that. So this is the business model for the radio companies. Now, I am paying to have a radio show. So my personal experience is that I am paying to be able to do disclosure. And so I may take a little bit different attitude toward the behavior of my guests because I'm paying to have them on. They're not paying me. I'm not being paid for it. I am taking money out of my Social Security check to put these people on air. And that may color the way I see these things. So, all right. It should be noted that Eugene Sonny Irvin Jr. recently did jail time for fraud in Texas. I interviewed him several times. The information he shared was stolen from Andy Bajago. I did not know that at the time. I did know that the information checked out, but I did not know that he'd stolen it from Andy. Nor was I aware that Irvin had stalked both Andy Bajago and Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. This is my public apology to both of these fine people for giving that criminal airtime. But he is an example of why we have to talk about the frauds among us. I didn't know because they never talked about it. There are others I have interviewed who are unsafe in our community. Now, I want to make it clear, a criminal past does not mean that the experience or the experiencer are invalid. Okay? If you have a criminal past and you've straightened your act up, then I have no problem with you. It's if the behavior is an ongoing threat to others that I have a problem with it. So, Irvin's ongoing theft of intellectual property, his stalking of speakers, his habit of using women to support him, all of these make him unsafe. He recently contacted me through social media. He's out of jail and just tried to walk right back into my life. And no, that's not going to happen. I am aware that he should be facing charges for grand theft auto for stealing a rental car he took from a woman friend of mine. Now, this particular man, I'll go into more detail about his work later. I've been threatened by another guest and attacked for the last 6 months by him and his girlfriend. I never did anything to either of them. I blocked him when he threatened me and his girlfriend as soon as I knew she was with him. And I still get notified of everything they say about me. Mutuals. I want you to understand, this man and his girlfriend have terrorized me. when I did absolutely nothing to either one of them. I was in surgery and came out to attack after attack after attack after attack, and I had not done anything to the man except have him on my show once. Trust me, that will never happen again. And every time any of you put his crap in my face, you are helping him terrorize me. Please stop now. I don't want to hear a damn thing that he has to say. There is someone who I have been affiliated with for the past year. He's been on my show. I've been on his show. I'm simply worn down by his constant disrespect. The parts of his personal story that I had problems with from the beginning are still problematic for me. And I'm doing a video about this now. Out of the 40 or so folks who have attacked me since I became public, about 10 are actually dangerous and should be noted. Now, I'm not going to talk about all the assholes who hate me. Come on. I know that I'm controversial on a good day, and people are entitled to have their own opinions about me or to believe or disbelieve what I have to say. Not my circus, not my monkeys. These people that I'm naming have engaged in behaviors that are criminal in California. These are the people who are dangerous. And I think you need to think about that. Okay, so there are 10 of them. Some are more dangerous than others, but I'm going to give them roughly in chronological order of when they attacked me. Number 1, Fritz Springmeier. Y'all think he's wonderful because he has investigated the Illuminati and he has investigated the folks who run the world, and he's given all of this stuff about them. Except in my own investigations, I found out about half of it is wrong. So, he will have you convinced that these people need to be killed. He will have you consenting to the deaths of innocent people. He will have you possibly consenting to your own death because he claims the entire families are evil. Sorry, folks, every individual has the choice whether they are going to be evil or not. Your family doesn't decide it for you. Now, his solution to everything is an exorcism at $600 a pop. He believes that people like me who survived the SSP are majorly demon infested, and that we have to go through daily exorcisms at $600 a pop until all the altars are gone. Okay, that's his business model. That's how he's supporting himself, is by charging a lot of money to do something that you can't prove whether he actually did it or not. Okay? And when he confronted me with this, I said, truthfully, I've already been through 104 exorcisms through the Episcopal Church. 1999, 2001. 2 years of weekly exorcisms. And I still have altars. So he declared that I was a demon in a group of MELABs who were programmed and paranoid. And so they spent the next 6 months attacking me. He set me up to be a targeted individual in my own community when all I had done was reach out for help. That's criminal. Setting anyone up to be a targeted individual is a criminal offense. And since I am descended from those bloodline families, even though my family were not involved with them, he wanted people to kill people like me. That's also a criminal offense, to call for the murder of anyone else. Sorry, guys that are doing this about political figures, that can get you 5 years in prison. It's a Class C felony. So you need to think about that. But Fritz Springmeier targeted me because I had already had 104 exorcisms and still had altars. That's wrong. The second one was Alfred Lambermont Weber. He was in a group with me for several years until we got to the 3,000 member mark. And suddenly he thought we were a honeypot where he could make money off us. And to be perfectly honest, I was in bed asleep at the time the event happened, where one of the co-admins took down a post of his, and the founder of the group backed her on it. And I wake up to the man cussing at me in Messenger, telling me he's, quote, going to fuck me over. Well, I'm still half asleep, so I responded in German that he wasn't good enough to fuck me. So then he decided to take that quote and call it mind control. And suddenly I was a Nazi, and he was telling people that I was a Nazi and it was okay to kill me. And it turned out that he had just published a German language book version of his book, Dark Fleet. And so, since I was the only Nacht Waffen veteran public at the time, he targeted me as part of his advertising campaign. Now, I still have people contact me and tell me that that man is saying I'm a Nazi. Now, any of you with any common sense knows that that's asking for me to be killed. That's illegal. That's wrong. It's also a big fucking lie. Politically, I'm an Eisenhower Republican. Look that up. But people are still believing his shit. Now, number 3, I don't know what the man's real name is because I've been told at least 3 different aliases. One is Austin Bunton. The one that he was on my show as is Abe Rios. He's a hustler. He finances his travels by engaging in frauds. After I had him on my show, he blocked me because I did not provide him with a coyote to take him from Montana to Antarctica during the shutdowns without him getting the jab. I flat refused to even look for someone to do this because that was illegal. Okay, I do try to follow the basic laws. I was taught by an Air Force major how to be a dissident without going to jail. And one of the ways is you don't break the laws. So he has this Abe Rios character has absolutely no respect for law anywhere for any reason. So if he doesn't respect those laws, you can't trust him for anything else. On this list, he is probably the least dangerous. Okay, I've already mentioned Eugene Sonny Irwin Jr. is a total fraud who preys upon women. He does. He targets nice Christian married ladies, and he will go spend time with her and her husband and take them in, and they end up paying for his time to stay with them. They get him a rental car. They take him on vacations. They treat him like he's God for about a month, and then he moves on to the next one. This is his business model. Now, he has also stolen Andrew Basiago's intellectual property and uses it to get acceptance in the disclosure movement. He stalks Andy. He stalks Laura Eisenhower. And now he's stalking me. He just got out of prison in Texas for fraud. He was in prison in Texas before that for assault. He is facing grand theft auto charges for stealing a rental car from a woman friend of mine. Now, I don't only expose men who prey upon women. Our next listed person is a woman who targets men. Veronica Bartolini is looking for a sugar daddy. Her children moved out. She can't make ends meet on her Social Security disability. So she's looking for a man to make up the difference. I watched her target, attack, and strip the accounts of 5 different men in 19 months. At least 2 of them were married with children, and she was trying to destroy those families. Then, after 19 months of this spree, she suddenly decided they were agents and demanded that her victims be blackballed from the disclosure community. She got really pissed at me because I continued to interview them. She threatened me over it. My radio producer did not threaten her personally. He simply said that he would not tolerate anyone attacking me or any of my guests. So she panicked, deleted everything she had online, and when she came back 6 months later, she is starting over, but thankfully, no one's taking her as seriously as they were before. So that's why I stopped interviewing her. So she also has a problem with she can't tell fantasy from reality. And that colors her testimony. Now, Tomas Alvin. When I first met him, he was clean and straight. Over the 6 years I knew him, he became increasingly paranoid. He is on SSI for drug addiction out of San Francisco, California. But he lives in South America. So he is committing Social Security fraud. He remote views women in their homes. He publicly admits to remote viewing me in my home and dragging others along for the ride. He doesn't realize that when you remote view someone, if they have abilities, they can see you. And I have caught him more than once remote viewing me in the shower. I'm a disabled old fat lady. I don't know what he thinks he's going to accomplish by remote viewing me in the shower. But it's still invasive. And he has engaged in astral sex with women without their consent. And I've had complaints about him from more than one woman. So this is an ongoing habit he has. When we first went public at the same time, he was jealous that people wanted to hear me and did not want to hear him. He made very vocal complaints about it in private. And no one else has come up with the same story that he has. Now, I don't know if he's just from an outlier group or if it's total fantasy on his part, but his story is very different from the rest of us. So you might just keep that in mind if you listen to his videos. Keep in mind that he's difficult as an individual, and he is committing Social Security fraud. Now, the next one. I debated naming him because he's such a pain in the ass. But I needed to let people know I did not want to interview Rockefeller because he has a long history of mental instability and violent threats against anyone who has anything to do with him. But Doug Dietrich had interviewed him and was having him on for a while. And when I took a break to go to surgery, my producer took my place on Doug Dietrich's show and fell in love with Rocco and basically insisted that I interview him. I did nothing but interview the man once. I thought I was nice to him. I treated him with respect. But from the time we got off the air until I blocked him, all he did was harass me. I have pages of messages from him that I have recorded. I have every contact with him recorded, and I have turned the file over to my local sheriff's department so that if he shows up here, that they will know who killed me, because that's what he's threatened to do. Okay. When he took credit for burning down my producer's house while I was in surgery, I blocked him. He has continued to make threats to me through third parties ever since. Don't have any contact with this man. He's dangerous. Number 8, Anne Christine Fountain attached herself to me 2 years ago. She has alters, so she has been through something, but she has no memories at all. None. I told her that I no longer do counseling. She had contacted me after I'd had shoulder surgery and before I had my neck surgery. I was in a lot of pain. I did not wish to deal with anyone else's issues, period. And she refused to take no for an answer. She forced herself on me, continually whining and dumping on me. I refused to take the case. She eventually saw a psychic who supposedly told her what she did. She showed up at the last conference I did, clung to me like a groupie. As soon as Rocco attacked me, she moved in with him. She quit her job, abandoned her apartment, and moved 1,000 miles east in with a man who was attacking me. And she directed the attack ever since. Okay. The only motive I can find is that she thinks that she's going to make money as a speaker. Sorry, babe. The speakers don't make money. Everybody around us does, but we don't. Okay. Peter Moon promotes perps. That's what he does wrong. He misrepresents himself as a researcher. He's not, he's a promoter. All of his Montauk books are from the perspective of Preston Nichols, a self-admitted pedophile and homosexual rapist. We have that on video. If you read any of Peter Moon's books, they are synchronicities instead of facts. He goes by, did the person who said something, are they a Wilson, a Cameron, or a Kennedy? If they are, he will accept the most blatant bullshit, and if they're not, he will not accept a word they say. He's a former employee of Scientology. Everything he writes is filtered through their beliefs. He has told me to shut up on my own show. He also regularly disrespects me on Doug Dietrich's podcast. He recently went through and redid the casting on Doug Dietrich's show. Who's there, who's allowed there, who's spoken of respectfully, etc. He shows all the earmarks of being a handler. But there, if Doug is a consenting adult, then that's none of my business. Now, Douglas Duane Dietrich has an incredible command of actual facts and can rattle them off faster than most people can hear them. On my show, he generally stuck to the facts. It's when we look at his biographical information that issues arise. His mother would have been 13 at the time he says she was a diplomatic translator for the Japanese Empire. Okay, I understand a 13-year-old being used as a compromising sex slave. I do not buy that she was a diplomatic translator. Sorry, it's unreasonable. His birth 30 plus years later from artificial insemination is a bit unbelievable. Maybe the technology existed, but I know the technology existed in the space programs, but he doesn't believe those are real. His book about the Russian vampire virus is plagiarized completely. He does give credit to the original author when he says that he took it from a report. What he doesn't say is that he took the report. Okay. His reliance on documents provided by Colonel Aquino that he was required to burn has several places that are probably untrue. And you have to keep in mind that Aquino claimed to have never met Doug, ever, not even once. And I know Aquino had absolutely no reason to admit to this. So I'm not saying it's completely wrong, but I'm saying there's a lot of iffy there. And for someone who demands evidence from me, he's not very forthcoming with his own. Now, on my first interview I did with Doug on my channel, on my show, and I've done 4 of them, the facts that he presented unrelated to Aquino or unrelated to his biography have all turned out to be true. Now, on that first show he did with me, he was blatantly trying to shock me. But he admitted to almost all the behaviors that have turned up in a private investigator's report about him. He openly admits to cross-dressing. He openly admits to drug use. He openly admits to drinking young blood. He openly admits to being a Tong. If you don't know what that is, that's the mafia of the Chinese community. He also claims to be an Eastern Orthodox Christian. He celebrates a lot of Asian holidays, holy days. He claims to be a vampire, which is supported by the fact he drinks young blood. So I don't understand why his supporters are ignoring all of that. He was quite open about it on my show. And that was completely verified by the private investigator. Now, my friend Salman Sheikh, who I met on Doug's show, had supported him for years at $100 a month. And finally, one day, it occurred to him that Doug wasn't kidding about his breaks to go take drugs. So Salman hired a private investigator, made those findings public. And I've heard from several people that Doug has called for Sheikh to be killed. That's actually a criminal offense, dude. That's wrong. That can get your ass thrown in jail. And if I have any credible understanding of the actual physical shape you're in, that could kill you. So I would think that being a little bit respectful would be a good idea. But dude, think. I know it's hard, but think. Now, I had been a semi-regular on Doug's show for about a year at the request of my producer, who had been contacted by Doug. I was on about 3 times a month. He has basically 8 or 9 shows a month. So I was on about a third of the time. Every single episode, I was treated with disrespect. My comments were respun as soon as I was off the air. And I would have the Skype open, I would have the YouTube open so that I could answer questions from the audience. And as soon as I logged off the Skype, I would turn the sound on the YouTube. It had been off so it wouldn't echo. And I would hear him explain what I said as though I were an ignorant